be. Oh.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the second of the three-part podcast series we're doing on the 2019 Hockey Hall of Fame nominations. For this one, my good pal and my New Brunswick Independent Authors cohort and Bugle Observer alumni Nathan DeLong is going to take it. Of course, we're going to be talking about that Canadian hockey superstar Hayley Wickenheiser, who a lot of people say is the Wayne Gretzky of women's hockey, or some people say Wayne Gretzky is the Hayley Wickenheiser of men's hockey, depending how you're looking at it. So
yeah, it could be one way or the other.
Could be one way or the other. Nathan, good morning. How you doing?
Great, thanks, Jeffrey. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's from the home office in Canterbury. Sorry, the house is a little bit warm this morning. It's been 29 degrees. Right off the highway, it tends to be warm, but we're going to talk about the warmth of Hayley Wickenheiser's career today. Now, Hayley Wickenheiser probably is, if she wore every medal she won for Canada, she would have neck spasms like crazy. Now, by my count, and Nathan can back us up, she's one of the few Canadian athletes of all time to win 4 gold medals at the Olympics. She got 1 silver and 4 gold at the women's hockey tournament, including infamous 2002 first one for Canada, Salt Lake City, with the allegations were proven false. She was complaining the Americans had the Canadian flag on the floor in her dressing room, which was inaccurate, but she showed their fire in that day. She won for Canada in Torino in 2006, Vancouver 2010, and 2014 in Sochi. And of course Nagano, which wasn't really a strong team as the 2002 to 2014. She won silver. Many world titles on behalf of Canada. If I'm not mistaken, she's won seven gold and 6 silver. So that means
that's correct.
Yeah, between Olympic and world titles, 19 medals. Imagine 19 medals on an elite level. That's just tremendous. That's almost comparable to, I don't know, an American figure skater winning 19 world and Olympic titles, and her longevity of a career. Now, for you, Nathan, we're going to look some of the history of Hayley. Statistically, she, by your recollection, what stands out with Hayley's career from a fan of hockey and a person who covers it? What stands out for her skating style, her scoring style, her overall play in the ice?
What really stands out, I mean, is just you look at the points she put up. I mean, her most recent Olympics in Russia in 2014, one of the last gold medals that Canada won in women's hockey, she was basically a point-per-game player on the back 9 of her career. I mean, you look at just the points she put up overall, 2010 in Vancouver on home soil. I mean, 2 goals and 9 assists, so it looks almost like she was more of a playmaker in some tournaments than a scorer. Minus 07 at the Women's World Hockey Championships when she scored 8 goals and 6 assists, total of 14 points. But look at the 06 Olympics too, which wasn't necessarily a great year for the men's program, but was another strong showing for the women's program. 5 goals in 5 games, so she was at the very least a goal for game player, but 12 assists in that tournament for a total of 17 points. I mean, just sort of speaks to the point that she was maybe a bit more of a playmaker than a pure scorer. But what really stands out, I mean, is just the big part she had with the veteran leadership that she would have provided as well, and the experience that she would have brought to, Team Canada programs with various ages in the players. She just would have brought a ton of experience to those programs, and she just was a huge part of a lot of the women's hockey success on the international stage, and as well as the growth of women's hockey in Canada. She was a huge contributor to that, because think of how many young girls who may or may not have gotten a chance to play hockey, who could have had somebody to look up to,
and she was the one.
When they saw what Wickenheiser did for this country and this hockey program.
You see what's kind of ironic here, and this had happened before Nathan was born. Doug Wickenheiser, one of her extended family members, was a big draft pick of the Montreal Canadiens, and he was a failure in Montreal, even though he was a good player. And for a lot of people that were coming up in the 90s, watching the different programs, hearing about her, she was first recruited or came on a national level when she was 12 or 13 years old, which is comparable to one of the groundbreakers in women's hockey, Abbie Hoffman, the former Olympian that basically dressed as a boy to play in women's hockey, and she was kicked out for it because he felt she was not only too good for the boys, she shouldn't be there in the first place. But the early years of the Canadian women's hockey program was very much finesse. But Hayley Wickenheiser, comparable to Doug Gilmour and kind of a Mike Gartner style, she was very aggressive on the power play, very aggressive as a forward, and it was part of that resurgence of Team Canada from being a very finesse team in the 94 years, Sada Harwood, a few others, Stacey Wilson too as well, a great New Brunswick shutout. They were getting more offensive, and she was leading that. Cassie Campbell as well, another key player. But Hayley Wickenheiser changed the way not only the game was played, and like Nathan said, how the game was portrayed. Nathan, to your memory, you weren't alive back then, but the research you've done, how many women do you think girls were playing women's hockey in the late 80s, early 90s? Maybe a few thousand across Canada?
Oh, it was definitely well under 1 million.
Okay.
I mean,
across Canada right now, look in New Brunswick, there's literally the thousands of young girls playing hockey all across Canada. And it was motivated by Hayley Wickenheiser, because everyone needs a Gretzky or a Merce Richard. Someone's going to motivate them to play. But what Hayley did, she could be a woman and be a player and be a hockey player. There was no distinction, because Manon Rhéaume, who was kind of pushed as a hockey player, she was a famous goalie that played pro hockey for a Tampa Bay affiliate. She was brought in as a pretty face. Hayley Wickenheiser, very, very nice looking lady, but she wasn't there for her looks because she could play. You put a helmet on Hayley Wickenheiser and play her in an AHL team, there would be no distinction. She was one step away from playing in the men's NHL team, but in today's NHL, with her skills, she could easily make a third or fourth line with the NHL. She was
easily,
that good,
100%.
easily, because she had that way with the puck. She was made the players around her better. I think what the Hockey Hall of Fame has been looking at is you look at some of the internationals been added. This is kind of not say the first opportunity to put her in. I think she officially retired, and Nathan can back me up. I think it was 2015 to 2016.
Yeah, somewhere thereabouts.
Yeah, so
it was
this
after
is
the last Olympics in Russia.
Yeah, so we.
Or sorry, 2 Olympics ago in Russia.
But they got her in pretty well as a first nominee, similar to Baseball Hall of Fame. And what's interesting about Hayley, and a lot of people know this, and maybe it's the first time for some, she was a very accomplished softball and fastball player. Actually, she made the clean Olympic team for softball at the 2000 Summer Olympics. Can you imagine a two-sport Olympic athlete? And don't forget as well, she was a strong university player for the Dinos in Calgary, and very strong player on the National Women Hockey Leagues throughout the years. So strong in the Olympics, strong in tournament play, strong in university, strong in women's national, especially like on the club level, like the ESO Championship. She was the MVP of the 1996 ESO tournament when ESO gave money for hockey. That was a few years ago.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, now there's kind of limited. But you look at the period, because I was one of the first beat reporters to cover women's high school hockey and minor hockey in New Brunswick, dating back to the early 90s. And I got flack from some of my Dalhousie News and Campbellton Tribune readers about saying, there's a new period coming. This is well before the Me Too movement, and Hayley Wickenheiser broke so many boundaries for women's hockey. Again, they looked at women's hockey as a finesse game. They put them in actually pink uniforms for the first World Championship, and that was sexist as you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
Nowadays, when people discuss women's hockey, the big thing they talk about right now is the funding. Funding has been cut because there's so many women's hockey players across Canada. Do you want to be paid what the men are paid or comparable? And that's what the NHL really needs to step up. But Hayley Wickenheiser, she's also a family person as well. She's built a great family. She's traveled the world to play hockey. She's played men's pro hockey in Europe. She's played, again, women's pro hockey across North America. And you could do probably 10,000 hours on Hayley Wickenheiser on her big games. But Nathan, for you, what really stands out was that tirade at 2002 Olympics where she basically said, if you're disrespecting our flag, we're not going to put up with it. Like, what really?
Yeah, oh my goodness, what a way to motivate a team to get over the top. I mean, That almost is like the moment at the '02 Olympics where Wayne Gretzky, who was general manager of the men's program, gave that press conference where he was complaining about the officiating and the way that the Canadian team was being treated at Salt Lake City and how they hadn't performed well, in 50 years and yada yada, and basically was saying, after one of their last games, before the medal round.
Yeah.
Am I mad? Like, yeah, I'm mad, and I'm sick and tired of people taking shots at Canadian hockey. We're the biggest story down here and whatnot, and it didn't take long after that for Canada to prove everybody wrong and to defeat the U.S. 5-2 to win gold. But, yeah, I'd have to say that moment for Wickenheiser is definitely, a turning point for the '02 tournament and just another big moment of her career as well.
Yeah. But see, you got to understand, she's not in because she stood her ground, but you look at Espo in '72 in Game 4 in Vancouver, you look at Gretzky's speech, you look at Donovan Bailey actually calling up Michael Johnson, the '97 match race, and in great periods of pro-Canada. Anyway, from all the factors we say, they didn't have her flag in the floor. That was just, I guess, rumor. But Hayley was so key on beating, and you got to understand this U.S. Olympic soccer women's team bullshit. Sorry to use it. Oh, we want equal pay. There's no rivalry. There's no team that can beat the States for soccer. That their win means nothing. They're beating teams that could beat. U.S. and women's hockey, that rivalry, that's going on over 20 years now. It was made by Hayley Wickenheiser and not Ferrero, but the big player for the States there. Anyway, I forget Donato or whoever it is. Anyway, you know who I'm talking about. You look at the Olympics now, you look at the Worlds, everybody wants the States and Canada. And the reason why the U.S. media covers women's hockey, which why they're now covering U.S. soccer, is because the U.S. women's hockey team and the Canadian hockey team have had strong rivalry. It's built up the sport. You got to have the yin and the yang, the Red Sox and the Yankees, the Leafs and the Habs, the 49ers and Dallas, the Colts and the Patriots, whatever. But Hayley Wickenheiser, imagine if women's hockey, Hayley Wickenheiser didn't exist. Can you even think about that?
No,
because
I can't picture.
You think women's hockey in Canada, first thing comes to mind is Hayley Wickenheiser, then Cassie Campbell, and then all the Olympic victories, all the great players.
I mean, you can't have one without the other, but it wouldn't be the same.
Yeah, it's like Gretzky in the 80s hockey. I mean, when the WHA merged with the NHL, the NHL was lost. He didn't know where the league was going. Sure enough, Gretzky, 137 points the first season. He made the league young again. He made the league invigorated. He turned the NHL into the WHA because the scoring was through the roof. I mean, he scored 92 goals a couple of seasons later. But Hayley Wickenheiser, everything we owe for women's hockey in Canada of the modern era, there's been a lot of trailblazers before, Hayley deserves it. And it's well done that the NHL and the Hockey Hall of Fame recognize somebody that... And now she's working with Nathan's Leafs. Talk a little bit about the job that she's doing with the Maple Leafs, Nathan.
Yeah, well, in the last year or two, Wickenheiser was given a job. It was actually last year as the assistant director of player development for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So that, I guess, is a good opportunity for Hayley to continue her, ambassador role and her role, perhaps not just as a player, but as a builder in promoting the sport. Giving underprivileged people the opportunity to play. I mean, and. It's just, her knowledge alone is a really solid addition to a Maple Leafs front office that's probably one of the better front offices in the league. The biggest problem now is they just can't get out of the first round of the playoffs. But
well, it's not Hayley's fault.
No, that's no fault of Hayley Wickenheiser. But
still,
it's a solid pickup for the Leafs front office. And a good opportunity for Hayley.
I think Wickenheiser down the road, because I think the reason why she hasn't taken a head coaching job, because she's very dedicated to her family. She's always been a family person. If you remember back those commercials he did, and the merged family she has. I think Hayley can be a head coach in the minor pros. I think down the road she can be associate coach. She's not head coach yet, not because she can't do it. She needs more experience towards being a head coach, because the level she's done, the majority, I think, of her elite teams, she's played against the Russians and I think the Swedes and the Finns. But,
yeah.
It's like match play. The only team that could beat Canada was the States, and that was her motivation. But she's got to find a way to be a head coach where she can motivate her players to beat everybody. And that could be a failing, not because she wouldn't be a great head coach, but there's her future is open to her. Still a young lady, still a young woman. And, I would suspect there was about 40 or 45 players from that original Team Canada pink team, as I call it, to 2002, that will have a major impact on hockey for the next 40 years. Cassie Campbell. Hayley Wickenheiser, I think down the road will ask to be head of a players association or head of an organization that will be dealing with women and men's hockey equally. But I'd like to see for Hayley to take a year off a sabbatical, also to go across Canada to hold recruitment camps for young girls and young women to get them involved in the coaching aspect. We have tons of players, but I really believe we should have more female coaches out there, because Nathan covers a lot of hockey. When's the last time you saw a women's coach?
It wouldn't have even been in hockey. It would have been when I was working at the Telegraph-Journal in St. John, and one of the boxers from the Canadians Olympic women's program was in Quispamsis to do a women's or a youth boxing clinic, but it was sort of geared toward young girls.
Yeah, we need more women coaches for all genders, because you got to understand, women bring a different mindset towards sports. In a lot of cases, for the women I've covered, and I can back this up, they have a little bit more. See, sometimes it's the team aspect that the women have that the men don't have, because the individualistic aspect of play very prevalent in hockey, because a great player can win a game, but in women's hockey you got to be a team, because you're only good as your fourth line. I think the key team concept of hockey, which is comparable at the best, the women's Canadian women's hockey team was comparable to a high-ranked major midget AAA or AA team. Very, very comparable to midget AAA. Not at the junior level, because they had weaknesses of speed. 6 good players for speed, another 5 or 10 good on the defense. But I feel that Hayley Wickenheiser can still make an impact to maybe get a coaches symposium, call it the Hayley Wickenheiser program. But again, she's working with the league, she's working on her family. My God, she's been the top of her game for what, a quarter century.
Oh yeah.
You got to take a break sometime. You know, I would figure, like I said, what Abbie Hoffman was stopped from doing, Hayley is doing it. The next generation could take the best of the Abbie Hoffman era. And by the way, go on the Google or go on CBC Archives. Read about Abbie Hoffman. She's been involved with the political side too. Not Abbie Hoffman, the protester in the States. You know, the Chicago 7 crackpot there, but the real Abbie Hoffman, as we're saying. So Nathan, great job as usual. Anyway, this is going to be, I think we should make this an annual tradition.
Yeah, we should actually.
Unless they want to...
I'd be happy to sit down and break down the Hall of Fame inductees every year.
Well, we should actually, next few weeks, you should maybe do a podcast on people that don't deserve to be in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
That'll ruffle some feathers, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, I didn't want Alan Eagleson in there, but he cut his own throat and we got rid of him, but that's another story. But I can tell you right now, in the words of my dear departed father, Ralph Backstrom has 8 cups and he's not going to Hockey Hall of Fame. Making a Hockey Hall of Fame has nothing to do with cups. You got to be like somebody like Hayley Wickenheiser, Guy Carbonneau, Zubov, Ninimansky. People have made a marked difference, not only for their leagues but their country. And we got to find a way to get more internationals in there. But you know, see, we don't have that problem with gambling like baseball and stuff, because Pete Rose not being in and stuff like that. But at least hockey, there's a purity of aspect. We can look back and compare errors very favorably. But I still believe Paul Henderson should be in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
He's not in the Hall of Fame? That's
no.
Crazy.
Why would Henderson be in the Hockey Hall of Fame? I'll tell you why. His stats hold up. The best Detroit teams of the 60s, the best Toronto teams of the 70s, WHA Pioneer, Team Canada twice, 72 and 74. The 3 biggest goals probably Team Canada's ever scored of the 1970s, comparable to Sittler in 76 and such.
Not to mention the most iconic photograph of the giant goal that he scored
that was
the Summit Series in 72. Eh?
That was a crop, but that's a story for another time.
Either way, it's still a pretty solid
was a crop.
photo.
No, but it was a crop, though. It was a crop.
That's a subject for another podcast.
But that was taken by a New Brunswick photographer, but that's another story altogether.
We'll save that for another podcast.
Save for another podcast. Next podcast, Henderson not in the Hall of Fame. And hopefully Henderson will sign a jersey for... And whatever happened to Henderson's original jersey been sold again? $185,000.
That's sweet. That'd pay off most of my debt.
That'd pay off most of my debt. Have a good day, guys. Bye.